It's a tweet from Mark Tooley. There are now nearly 8,000 exited United Methodist churches. I underestimated. So he's referencing a post that he made in 2023 where he said, I expect 5,000 churches to exit the UMC before this year's deadline. When the denomination officially liberalizes next year, I expect another 1,000 churches to exit by buying or abandoning their property. There were 30,000 local churches in 2020. And so he foresaw 6,000. This was not a prophecy, but he foresaw 6,000 churches leaving, and now there are over 8,000. So the thing I just thought would be worth saying about this was people of the institution, of course, were very surprised when the number of churches came out that wanted to leave. And of course, many more would have left if their conferences had been amenable to it. But in my annual conference in Oklahoma, when people at the top talked about it, they thought only maybe 5 churches would go, and there turned out being 25 times that wanted to leave. I don't remember what the total amount was, but they massively underestimated. But even conservatives who'd been watching this for a long time underestimated the amount of resolve and commitment to getting clear. So what's amazing at this point is how many churches, despite all of the machinery of keeping them from talking about it, of not even being able to get out, of all this confusion of, oh, you'll be able to get out afterwards, and then pulling the rug out from under them. Despite all of these different phenomena, still, by my count, by my lights, remember a lot of annual conferences, they refused to do 2553. Instead, they did 2549. These were paragraph provisions in the Book of Discipline. They closed churches rather than letting them disaffiliate. So whenever you involve all of the closed churches since 2020, I think the number you get of all the churches that have closed or left is closer to 10,000, fully a third of the denomination. When you look at the attendance projections since 2019, or the reports rather, I recently went through these. We don't have them for the year 2023 when the bulk of disaffiliations went through. But through 2022, they already lost a massive amount of their weekly attendance throughout the American portion of the denomination. I think it's reasonable to project that the United Methodist Church since 2019 has lost 2/3 of its attendees in average weekly worship. We won't know for sure until annual conferences have to report next year on those 2023 numbers, and they're compiled by GCFA. But the losses of the UMC outstrip all the projections that I'm aware of. Even people on the right, evangelical traditionalist caucus leaders who knew that more were going to leave than the institution thought, they still undershot the overall amount of people in churches who chose to leave. And I am still of the mind that we haven't seen the end of this. There are several conferences that have still allowed for provisions to disaffiliate. And so we're going to continue to see that unfold. We've already seen 2 conferences in the last month let large amounts of churches go. And of course, the majority of these are small churches, but there are still churches with average attendance over 100 that are leaving. That's bigger than the churches I preach at. So these are sizable and significant measures that are going to continue to deplete the resources of the United Methodist Church. And we're just talking about number of churches and attendance so far. But if you haven't been watching my reporting lately, it's also been established that giving has completely dropped off. Not completely dropped off. I don't want to be too hyperbolic. It has significantly dropped off in the last 2 months as the new reality of the UMC has come through. There are a lot of local churches that can't get loose, but they're just not in good conscience going to send money up to the denomination. So even if they retain artificially, I would say, even if they artificially retain some numbers pertaining to attendance or number of churches, the money speaks for itself. And so more about that is going to be known coming up. But I and others like me, I don't think we wish any harm on the United Methodist Church necessarily, but as these things are revealed, there are just some times whenever the Lord is revealing to you that even though you think you're right, you're wrong. It's really hard to discern those times because sometimes adversity is because you're doing the right thing, right? So it's really hard to discern that. But for I and others, it's just been very clear that the United Methodist Church has been doing wrong, 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 and all these signs are right in front of them to show them that they have made a wrong decision that is going to it's already maybe doomed the whole thing to destruction within 10, 15, maybe 20 years. The only reason that they don't need to freak out right now is because they have massive reserves of undesignated funds that they can just sit on. They have investments that are going to pay off year over year. They have assets that they can liquidate, but that's not going to get you by for forever. So unless they repent and there's some kind of reconciliation with GMC folks, I think we're just going to see a long, depressing, unnecessary decline into irrelevance and then just death. So we'll pray for them here in a little bit.